Get yourself a song to sing and sing it till you're done. Yeah, sing it hard and sing it well. Send the robber barons straight to hell. The greedy thieves who came around and ate the flesh of everything they found. Whose crimes have gone unpunished now. Walk the streets as free men now. They brought death to our hometown boys. Death to our hometown boys. Death to our hometown boys. Death to our hometown.
Here we go. Well, let's go occupy Wall Street in every city and town. We'll occupy houses, the banks foreclosed. Make sure that no one's left out in the cold. And it's root, root, root for the new world we're building right here for today. And it's 1, 2, 3 billion more. It's a new ball game. Rah-rah! Here's to the home team. Thank you. We'll see you later.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here for this very, very important rally. My name is Chris Mihalakis. I am president of the Metro Detroit AFL-CIO. We are a coalition of labor unions, and we're proud to stand with this movement. This is another part of the movement of the 99%, this movement to keep people in their houses, to fight the banks. We're proud to stand with you all here in this fight. We've been calling for the head of Ed DeMarco for some time now. Whoever replaces Mr. DeMarco, they need to make principal reduction a priority. It needs to be part of the agenda, and we need to keep people in their homes. We've always seen our role as to protect the American dream, to really be the vanguard of the American dream. And to me, home ownership is the most important part of protecting the American dream. That's why we are proud to be with you here, and we will always be fighting along your side. As long as this movement exists, we'll be right there with you.
You know, foreclosures have just devastated our communities. And the thing that is so sad about so many of the mortgages that people were induced into were subprime, adjustable rate, pay option arms, all these other convoluted, creative financing packages. So they didn't stand a chance, even if life didn't intervene. But if life intervened, such as a layoff, an illness, a divorce, any minor thing, they were put into a spiral that it was a setup. They were going to go into default. Now, our government said, you know what, we're going to try to help these homeowners out. And they bailed out the banks. Then they developed a plan. We're going to modify homeowners' loans. But they didn't give the power to the people to be able to effectuate these modifications. They gave the power to the bank. And then after they created this plan, the government took over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and as a part of this plan, they insured the banks, quote unquote, toxic loans. Now, what does that mean in layman's terms? That means that if the home goes into foreclosure and the bank successfully evicts the individual or family, the bank gets paid the mortgage balance. Now, at first glance, people don't really catch on to the significance of that. The mortgage balance, not the fair market value. So that means you take a house in Detroit. The fair market value may be $10,000. They don't get paid the $10,000. They get paid the $150,000 mortgage balance, plus attorney fees and property preservation fees. Wonder why no one's getting the modification. This is ridiculous, especially in light of the fact that this is being done with our tax dollars. Look at the congressional budget and see how much money line item is being forced into the Federal Finance Housing Agency, the FHFA, for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who's turning around, expending that money, your tax dollars, to evict people from their homes based on these foreclosures. At some point, we've got to realize the government's not getting ready to ride in and help us. No one's getting ready to ride in and help us. If we do not stand up collectively and help ourselves, the rest of our community, what little is left that hasn't been devastated, will be destroyed as well. When are we going to stand up and say, we aren't going to take this anymore? When are we going to ask for some accountability about our tax dollars and why are our tax dollars being used to throw our neighbors out of our homes? I'm challenging you to do your part to stop this madness and to stop the eviction and foreclosure of people with your tax dollars based on fraudulent and just totally outrageous loans.
What we're going to do is ask Angela and we're going to ask Ray to both give us an idea of what it's like to deal with a bank that is servicing a mortgage that is owned by either Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, and what kind of frustrations and difficulties and the obstacles that people run into.
What I wanted to say is that this whole situation started in 2011, and just to make a long story short, I was making payments on an unemployment assistance program, and I was making payments, gave the first payment in June. I had a contract saying that they would not start any foreclosure proceedings while I was in the contract and if I was making my payment. As soon as they took my last payment, they sold the house, and I found out because the insurance agent called and told me that they weren't paying the escrow for homeowners insurance anymore because of foreclosure. Never sign a consent agreement, no matter what you do, because the attorneys will trick you into doing that. Never sign a consent agreement because you give up all your rights, and you have a right to fight in eviction court. You have a right to defend a foreclosure in eviction court. And I could not concentrate on feelings. I had to be focused on deadlines and writing succinct arguments, and then the feelings came out in the court, and that's when I argued. And so I guess all that built up anger and disgust and outrage at my tax dollars being used and my mother's and everybody's tax dollars being used to put me in the street is just unimaginable. Encourage people not to be afraid, because this is a fight, and as a warrior, you might have some emotions that come up, but you have to retreat, regroup, and go back fighting again, because people don't have a right to put us on the street and take away from us.
Thank you, Angela. And her circumstance of being dual-tracked is not uncommon, where you're working with a bank that's servicing the loan, you think you're on your way to some sort of resolution, or at least the prospect of keeping your house, and then bang, silently under the radar, they've been preparing for, and then suddenly go to the sheriff's auction and take the home. So it's dual-tracking. It's not supposed to occur. It happens all the time. It violates the standards that they claim to be following, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow the banks that are servicing these mortgages to do it all the time. Let me ask Ray now. Ray lives in Canton, Michigan. Ray Mandry. He's a disabled Vietnam vet.
I'd like to thank Angela, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. You've got to fight. You can't stop. I've been at it since about January, March of 2011. And my home is in foreclosure, but they're going to have to drag me out. We've still got some court cases to go through. So they're not getting me out of the house at this point. This is not a left or right issue. This is an issue determining your rights to due process through the bank and through Fannie Mae, both of which refuse to provide due process. I lost my job in 2010, spent a lot of time looking for work, over a year and a half. Still haven't found a real job. Went out and sold my wife's car, sold our jewelry, sold furniture, did whatever we could to pay the house and keep it going. About 2011, March of 2011, I contacted Bank of America to talk about these loan modifications I had been hearing and reading about. I talked to somebody in their department, loan department, named Tracy Carroll, who told me that I had to provide her with W-2s, tax returns, paychecks, birth certificates, blood samples, nail trimmings. The whole deal. All right? Now, I did all of those about 6 times, and then when she asked for the stool sample, I passed. The truth of the matter is, they don't want to work with you. All right? I gave her all of this information, and I talked to her twice. After that, I was totally stonewalled. She was never there, never returned a phone call, didn't do anything that she said she would do. So then I got involved with the Wayne County group, who was trying to help people forestall their foreclosures. And the process started all over again. We repeated all the necessary paperwork at least a half a dozen times. We got a letter saying that there was nothing else that they could do. They're not going to grant the modification, and they were going to foreclose on the home on November 9th. At that point, I contacted another attorney, and the process started all over again. All right, more paperwork, and they said everything looked good. Yep, no problem. And they snuck out the sheriff in the middle of the night to hang the tag on my door saying the house was foreclosed on. Really made me angry, to say the least. And we're still fighting. We're fighting on 2 grounds that I understand. That the bank did not provide everything that they were supposed to provide by law. They did not give me the breakdown as to why they were denying my loan. We're also attempting a new approach, saying that according to the Fifth Amendment, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, since they are now government institutions, don't have the right to take over your property without due process. All I want to tell anybody who's listening and anybody who's in this position is the same thing Angela said. You're warriors, fight, do not roll over. Thank you.
And we're going to hear now another variant on this, and this is Bob Goss. We were, by the way, in 52nd District Court packing the courtroom this Monday on Bob's behalf, an action we've repeated in different district courts around the area. And Bob can give us an idea of the particular circumstances of his experience dealing with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Thank you, everybody. I'll just say this. It's been an incredible experience. In 2008, I've been in the automotive business for over 25 years, and it all came to a crashing halt. Well, for that period on, after 2008, I continued to make my house note payments as usual. Figured, it'd be really no issue. I'll find another job. Lo and behold, our economy was really spiraling into something incredible here in Michigan, as we all know. A program was instituted. Timothy Geithner and President Barack Obama decided to come up with this thing called a HAMP program. I thought this would be my saving grace to get me started. In April, I contacted my bank, went online, filled out all the paperwork, finally got it sent in. Decided to give him a call. 2 weeks later, said, "Sorry, Mr. Goss, we lost page 4. Could you send it again?" No problem. So, send it back again. Call back 2 weeks later, same answer. Well, they lost page 6. Then they lost part of the tax information. Then they lost this, then they lost that. Mind you, I was sending a certified mail the whole time, dealing with this crap. I started to become more savvy, start recording phone calls, start monitoring who I was talking to, getting full names, getting all the information together, and keeping a file. I finally got a hold of a woman there. I probably shouldn't use her name because of the issues that are going on. Got a hold of her after months of fighting. Said, "Okay, Mr. Goss, we're going to see the plan." Anyways, I continued my fighting, got my modification paperwork sent to me, finally. They set up the whole terms and everything. "Okay, Mr. Goss, you send in your 3 trial payments, and that's it." 22 months payments into this, I'm still making payments. Then all of a sudden, then, I come home. They foreclosed on my house. They sold my house at sheriff's sale 5 days prior to me even knowing about this, and it already happened. Supposed to be in court, the whole thing. They took 22 of my payments, and then they sold my house. I'm fighting a system here that it just bulldozers over everybody. And without somebody there who is your advocate, who's there to help you, you're going to be just lost. Right or wrong, it won't even matter.
We're going to ask Joe McGuire to come on up, and he's going to give us a brief overview of what eviction defense has looked like so far.
We fight foreclosures. To us, the foreclosure crisis isn't just an economic issue, it's a social justice issue, it's a civil rights issue, and as such, it can only be dealt with by a social movement. We aren't going to fix this by relying on corporations and politicians to fix it for us. Just like in the past, we have to go out in the streets together and do it ourselves. All of our anti-foreclosure campaigns have 4 components: legal defense, public pressure, community support, and direct action. Legal defense means that we have the people who are facing foreclosure consult with attorneys who help them do whatever they can to fight the foreclosure in court. We also hold public legal clinics where homeowners can get informed of their rights and have attorneys go through their individual cases with them. The law is unfriendly to homeowners facing foreclosure. And even when the law is on our side, judges often interpret the law in bizarre ways, seemingly calculated to deny justice to homeowners. The banks have expensive law firms with hundreds of attorneys at their disposal who are experienced in getting homeowners through the process of being foreclosed as quickly and as smoothly as possible. So the vast majority of the time, the best our lawyers can do is stall the bank in court while we fight it in the streets and in the court of public opinion. Public pressure means that we simply get the public to put pressure on the bank to call off the foreclosure. We try to get the word out about the foreclosure as much as we can. We do this through paper flyers, the internet, phone calls, and the news. In all of our promotional material, we tell the story of the foreclosure, the personal story of how this person, you've heard a few of them already tonight. It's powerful to hear that, and it's powerful to see that face of the family that is facing foreclosure. We give out the bank's phone number so people can flood the bank with calls telling them to call off the foreclosure. People call elected officials to demand that they put pressure on the bank. We advertise upcoming protests against a foreclosure and how to get in touch with us. The banks don't like it when their dirty laundry gets aired in public. The more visibility we get, the more the bank is willing to call off the foreclosure in order to avoid bad publicity and public scrutiny. Community support means that when we start organizing against a foreclosure, the most important allies to enlist in the struggle are the neighbors of the people facing foreclosure. Neighbors have a clear interest in fighting the foreclosure. They know that they will gain nothing by having their neighbor evicted. The home will become blighted, vacant, and a magnet for crime. The property value of the surrounding homes will plummet, and most importantly, they will lose a valuable member of their own community. That's why one of the first things that we do in every campaign is go door to door in the neighborhood, passing out flyers and talking to people about the foreclosure we're organizing against. We try to get in touch with any churches, community organizations, and unions who might be interested in helping us with the struggle. We have public support rallies in front of the home and invite neighbors to speak. And lastly, direct action means that while we build public pressure against the foreclosure we're organizing against, sometimes we are forced to take actions which physically prevent the bank from taking possession of the home. When a bank wants to evict you, it first gets a writ of eviction from the local district court. Then the bailiff of the court calls up an outside company which is supposed to carry out the eviction. The first thing that company does is park a big construction-sized dumpster in front of your house. And that's when you know that the eviction crew is going to come out sooner or later and take all the stuff that's left in your house and put it in this big dumpster for everyone to see. A while ago, a family named the Garretts got in touch with us. We first met with them. Yeah, give him a hand. There's Michelle. She got in touch with us. I think she got in touch with us on a Friday or a Saturday, and she told us that my parents have been living in Detroit for over 30 years, and they're scheduled to be evicted this Monday. We showed up at the crack of dawn, and sure enough, in a couple hours, we saw that truck pulling this construction-sized dumpster near the house, and some of us took our cars and just parked them across the street, because why not? And it worked. The guy in the truck that was driving the dumpster looked at us very confusedly for a while, and eventually he gave up and drove away. But in the meantime, We had a protest at the bank's headquarters downtown where Mrs. Garrett laid across the front doors to the bank's offices and said, "I'm not leaving until one of you from inside those offices comes out and at least talks to me about my own foreclosure." And she actually got it. We had everybody flood the bank with calls. We got on the news. And by the time we had a rally at the house the next day, the bank was already calling us wanting to talk. And I was with the Garretts, and it's one of the best moments of my life, sitting with them in their living room while they signed the documents with the bank selling them their home for its market value, and they live in that home to this day, and they don't have to worry about being foreclosed on ever again. It feels empowering and exhilarating. It feels good to be amongst other working people who are standing up and saying, forget what the bank says, forget what the court says, forget even what the law says. We're going to listen to what our conscience says. At the end of the day, it's just about standing up for ourselves and each other. Together, that way we can accomplish anything we want. Thank you.
You know what happened to Wonder Bread in terms of wage cuts and concessions and an impact on his pension. And to make a long story short, one day, woke up, and what did you see outside the window?
It was the biggest and the reddest dumpster I've ever seen in my life here. My wife and my daughter were up before I was, and I heard them downstairs with a lot of commotion, just running around, and what's going on? So I jumped out the bed, and I looked out the side window, and I seen, what is that dumpster doing outside my house? So we go downstairs, and my daughter called the number on the side, and they said, well, this is for eviction. This is Halloween. We knew nothing about this because the negotiations that we were doing with the bank were still ongoing. We have been negotiating with the banks for 2 years. Each year, as Mr. Goss and everybody else has mentioned, we lost this, can't find this, send us this, do that. Oh, you making too much money. Oh, you're not making enough. Oh, well, we doing this. It's the constant run around is all we got. And the next thing we know, what we got from the bank was, it's time for y'all to move out of the house. Been in this home for 23 years. My daughter was born there. And this is my home. Any other home that I've known was the one I grew up in. This is my home. People get afraid and they pack up what they want and they leave. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's yours. The banks have no right to take away what is yours. Yeah. I really would like to thank Eviction Defense, Occupy Detroit, moratorium now, because if it wasn't for these wonderful people, there's no telling where I would be. I don't know, I might have been one of them people on the news that was barricaded in the house, Yeah, but when they came into my life, so did hope. So did standing up for yourself. So that belief that what is yours one time is yours forever. There once was a time when you worked for it, you bought it, you got it. Now you work for it, you can buy it, and they come take it away from you. That is not a law that this country should go by. We are here as citizens of a country who we have, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our aunts have died and fought for this country. And we come home to what? Evictions, foreclosures, unemployment. Who are we? We are the American people. We are the backbone of this country. Without us, there is no America.
And in Jerry's case, by the way, we weren't there in time to block the dumpster. The dumpster was already on the ground, but we came up with some new tactics. In this case, we filled the dumpster with leaf bags so that they couldn't actually empty the house out. And you know how hard it is to get a police car to come to your neighborhood? They had 5 squad cars there, and within half an hour, a paddy wagon and 2 more dumpsters. But we had filed an emergency motion downtown, and it was like, a Jimmy Stewart movie. At the last minute, the lieutenant showed up with a piece of paper. The eviction had been stayed. They were about to arrest us otherwise, because we by then had about 25 people in front of the house. The mortgage was owned by Fannie Mae and serviced by Bank of America. Bank of America had sold it to Fannie Mae for the full value of the outstanding balance of the loan, but because of our pressure, Fannie Mae was forced to tell Bank of America to buy that mortgage back and do a modification to keep them in their home. So there again, it was It's what Joe talked about. It's the combination. It's not legal strategies alone. It's not mobilization of the community alone. It's not alternative finance alone. It's not direct action. It's all those things together.
I too share in their situation. I also was a person that was facing foreclosure with a tax sale of my home that I only owned for 5 months with the city of Detroit. Treasury Department sold my home from up under me to someone, but with the help of moratorium now, people before banks, Detroit Occupy, eviction defense, that as of yesterday, I have my deed to my home.
It was about 6 years ago, in March 2007, when Governor Granholm was going around the state having all these meetings about the economic crisis in Michigan. And I was able to kind of sneak into one of the meetings, and I wrote out my question in legalese so they didn't understand it. And after she made her presentation, she asked, well, what would you do as governor? And I raised my hand. They actually called on me. And I pointed out that as governor, she could declare a state of economic emergency, and that she could have put a moratorium on all foreclosures, evictions, and utility shutoffs, and pointed out that in the 1930s, we had a moratorium on foreclosures in Michigan for 5 years, where the banks in 25 other states had moratoriums, and they were even upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. And what a moratorium meant is that if you faced a foreclosure, you went to court and there wasn't some discretion, you didn't have to throw in 100 papers, you got an automatic stay on that foreclosure. And a judge was mandated to give you a payment that you could afford. But unfortunately, Governor Granholm refused to declare a moratorium. In fact, when we finally got some reporters who were bold enough to ask her why, despite the fact that Hanson Clark put in a bill for it and actually lost his job in Congress for pushing for it, you know what her answer was? The banks wouldn't like it. That was what Granholm's answer was. And think about it. If there had been a moratorium on foreclosures imposed in March of 2007, Detroit wouldn't have lost 250,000 in population who were driven out of the city by the banks. Well, today, the case for a moratorium on foreclosures is stronger than ever. And it's stronger than ever because now it's not even a question of telling the banks not to foreclose on the home. In 2008, make no mistake, in 2008, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were taken over by the federal government. They're now part of the federal government. They're part of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And they literally control virtually every single mortgage. It's a complete government takeover of the mortgage industry. The losses of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are of such magnitudes that the companies cannot repay taxpayers, us, for subsidizing this in any foreseeable scenario. The government controls every loan. All our homes are essentially public housing. What does that mean? That the president tomorrow declare that there's an economic disaster caused by foreclosures and foreclosure-related evictions and place an immediate moratorium through executive action. Doesn't have to go through Congress, through executive action to put a moratorium, a halt on every one of the foreclosures and evictions that are continuing to this day. There are 5.2 million homes in the U.S. as of January 2013 that are either in foreclosure or about to go into foreclosure in serious delinquency. 5.2 million homes on top of the 10 million that have already lost it. The president should be declaring a moratorium on foreclosures. Tell President Obama, stop listening to Geithner, stop listening to the bankers. We know Obama's chief of staff before was Daley. Where did he come from? Chase Bank. Stop listening to the bankers. Listen to the people who put you in office and put a moratorium on foreclosures and keep people in their homes. We need a movement that's in every neighborhood, every block, just like they had in the 30s. And when we build that movement strong enough, we're going to stop these foreclosures and epidemic. You know, it's not a question of whether or not someone even qualifies for a modification. So what? Like we heard today, most people lose their homes because they lose their jobs. When you lose your job, you can't pay anything in your home. Should you be tossed out? No, that home belongs to you. If you have medical bills, should you be tossed out? No, that home's a right. Housing is a fundamental human right. Only in a country where profit is everything and people are nothing does the government actually sanction and use our tax dollars to toss people out of their homes instead of keeping people in them. And we need to reverse it, and we will reverse it. We're also raising that it's unconstitutional the way these foreclosures and evictions are being carried out. Under the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the government cannot deprive anyone of their property without due process, meaning they're entitled to a hearing. We're going to take this all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the way foreclosures are done by Michigan.
We don't get no justice, there will be no peace. We're going to continue fighting the good fight, and we're going to let the banks know that until they stop foreclosing on our people, we won't stop. Can I get a witness here? And what is the message? We don't need emergency management. That's the message. What's the message? We don't need no more government foreclosures. That's the message. What's the message? We need jobs right here in America. That's the message. We need Congress to quit playing games. That's the message. And so we need you to be a part of that message.
My brothers and my sisters are stranded on this room. One dusty road at 1,000,000 feet of trod. Now the rich man took my home and drove me from my door.